There's a moment in every great story where the world holds its breath, when the threads of fate tighten and the air hums with the weight of what's to come. Tonight, we step into one of the most haunting and awe-inspiring tales ever told, the epic Norse Saga of Ragnarök, the Twilight of the Gods. Picture this: a seeress, her cloak whipped by the wind, standing on a cliff as storms rage around her. Her voice trembles as she speaks of the end of all things, of battles so fierce they'll shatter the heavens, and of gods who will face their doom with courage. This isn't just a myth, it's a prophecy woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. And whether you're listening under the midnight sky or the first light of dawn, we'd love to know, where in the world are you joining us from tonight? Let us know in the comments below and tell us what time your journey into this ancient tale begins. The Norse believed that even the gods were bound by destiny, and nowhere is that more evident than in the story of Ragnarök. Odin, the All-Father, with his one piercing eye, knows what's coming. He's heard the prophecies, the great wolf Fenrir breaking free, the serpent Yermangander rising from the sea, and the fire giant Surtr setting the world ablaze. Yet, despite the inevitability of it all, the gods choose to fight. They stand tall, not in defiance of fate, but in honor of it. There's something deeply human in that, isn't there? The idea that even when the end is certain, we meet it with our heads held high. This is more than just a tale of destruction. It's a story of cycles, of endings that birth new beginnings. The Norse didn't see Ragnarök as a final defeat, but as a necessary transformation, a cleansing fire that would one day give way to a renewed world. And as we dive into this saga together, you'll feel the thunder of Thor's hammer, the whisper of Loki's schemes, and the solemn resolve of Odin as he prepares for the last battle. So settle in, wherever you are, and let's unravel the threads of this ancient prophecy, one unforgettable moment at a time. The twilight of the gods awaits, and trust me, you won't want to look away. The air in Valhalla is thick with the scent of mead and steel, as Odin stands before the gathered gods, his single eye burning with grim resolve. The great hall, usually alive with the laughter of fallen warriors, now hums with the quiet tension of an approaching storm. Outside, the Valkyries sharpen their spears, their silver-winged helmets catching the dim light, each one chosen to ride into the final battle, not as reapers of souls, but as shields against the coming darkness. Thor's fingers tighten around Mjolnir, the runes carved into its handle glowing faintly, as if sensing the fury soon to be unleashed. His voice booms across the hall, not with his usual booming laughter, but with a vow that shakes the very pillars. Let the giants come. My hammer will answer, yet not all voices ring with the same certainty. In the shadows, Loki leans against a carved pillar, his smile sharp as a dagger's edge. He says nothing, but his presence is a ripple in the stillness, a reminder that even now, chaos weaves its threads into the tapestry of fate. The gods debate, their words clashing like swords. Some argue for one last attempt to outwit destiny, to chain Fenrir anew or placate the serpent Yermangander. But Frigg, her face lined with sorrow, knows better. The threads have been cut, she murmurs, the Norns have spoken. Then a sound splits the silence, clear and piercing as ice. Heimdall's horn, Gigjallarhorn, echoes across Asgard, its call reaching into every realm. The gods freeze. There's no mistaking that sound. It's the alarm that shakes the roots of Yggdrasil, the signal that the long night has begun. In that moment, all hesitation falls away. Swords are drawn, shields raised. Even Loki's smirk fades, replaced by something unreadable. The time for schemes and speeches is over, and so, beneath the sky, darkening with the first signs of the wolf's hunger and the serpent's wake, the gods of Asgard step forward. They are not marching to victory. They are stepping into a storm they've known would come since the dawn of time. But here's the thing about storms: they don't just destroy. They clear the way for what comes after. And as the first winds of Ragnarök howl through the branches of the world tree, one truth remains: these gods will not go quietly into the dark. The ground trembles as Fenrir's chains, forged by the dwarves with impossible craft, finally snap. The sound is like mountains crumbling, a deafening crack that echoes through every realm. Yggdrasil itself shudders, its roots groaning under the strain, as the great wolf throws back his head and howls, a sound so full of rage and triumph that even the bravest of the gods feel ice in their veins. This is the moment they've dreaded, the first undeniable sign that the prophecies are unfolding. And there, standing between Fenrir and the terrified gods, is Tyr. The one-handed god doesn't flinch. He knows what's coming. Long ago, he sacrificed his hand to bind the beast, a bargain made with grim certainty that this day would arrive. Now, as Fenrir's yellow eyes lock onto him, Tyr grips his sword, not with fear, but with a quiet resolve. The wolf lunges, faster than thought, his jaws gaping wide enough to swallow the sun. Tyr meets him head-on, his blade flashing, but Fenrir is no ordinary beast. His fur is like iron, his fangs sharper than any weapon. The clash is brutal, a whirlwind of snapping teeth and slashing steel. For a moment, it seems Tyr might hold his ground. Then pain, a sickening crunch. The gods gasp as Fenrir's jaws close around Tyr's arm, the same one he offered in sacrifice years before. Blood spills onto the earth, dark and steaming, and the wolf's growl vibrates through the very bones of the world. But Tyr doesn't cry out. Even as his strength fails, he meets Fenrir's gaze, and in that look is something deeper than defiance. It's understanding. He knew this would be his fate, just as he knew the wolf's freedom was inevitable. And so, with his last breath, Tyr does not curse the beast. He almost pities him. For Fenrir, too, is bound by destiny, a prisoner of the same prophecies that dictate the end of all things. As the god falls, the other Aesir stagger back, their faces pale. This isn't just a battle lost. It's the first thread of the tapestry unraveling. The ground quakes again, and far in the distance, a new sound rises, the hiss of a serpent, stirring in the depths of the sea. High above, Odin grips Gungnir, his spear, so tightly his knuckles whiten. He's seen this moment in his visions 1,000 times, yet the reality is worse. The Allfather doesn't speak. There's nothing left to say. The first blood of Ragnarök has been spilled, and the clockwork of doom has begun to turn. Somewhere, Loki smiles. The chaos he's sown is blooming at last, and even he can't predict where it will end. But one thing is certain: the god's hour of reckoning is here, and the wolf's howl is only the beginning. Loki moves like smoke through the shadows of Asgard, his footsteps silent as the gods prepare for war. Their shouts and clanging steel fade behind him, a chorus of doomed valor. He doesn't look back. There's no satisfaction in their blindness, only the cold precision of a plan centuries in the making. The air grows hotter as he descends, the golden halls giving way to jagged cliffs, then to the smoldering wastes of Muspelheim. Here, the earth itself breathes fire, and the sky bleeds embers. Surtr, the fire giant, stands amid the flames, his sword already glowing white-hot. He doesn't turn as Loki approaches. He doesn't need to. You're late, rumbles the giant, his voice like boulders grinding together. Loki's grin is all sharp edges. Fashionably so, he replies, stepping over a river of molten rock, as if it were a puddle. The pieces are in place. The wolf is free. The serpent stirs. All that's left, he gestures to Surtr's blade, is the spark. The giant finally turns, his eyes two pits of simmering coals. You ask much, trickster, he growls. The Allfather's blood will cost more than words. Loki's laughter is a knife in the dark. Oh, I'm not here to bargain. I'm here to remind you of the promise you made when the world was young. You've waited an age to wield that sword. Will you really hesitate now? For a heartbeat, the flames still. Then Surtr lifts his blade, and the inferno roars higher, swallowing Loki's silhouette. The message is clear. Meanwhile, deep in the black waters encircling Midgard, Yermangandr's massive coils shift. The serpent has slept for centuries, but now, something, or someone has tugged at the threads of its slumber. Its scales scrape against the ocean floor, sending tremors through the waves. Fishermen on distant shores abandon their nets, staring in horror as the sea begins to boil. The serpent isn't just awake, it's rising. Back in Asgard, Odin feels the change in the wind. He grips Gungnir tighter, his ravens whispering warnings only he can hear. The Allfather knows Loki's handiwork when he sees it, but even he can't predict the full shape of the betrayal. Not yet, because while the gods brace for war on one front, Loki has already opened three: the wolf, the serpent, the fire, and by the time they realize the noose is around their necks, it will be too late to do anything but meet their fate. Some betrayals come with a shout. Loki's comes with a smile, and the terrible, patient certainty that the end was never something to be fought, only embraced. The gates of Helheim groan open with a sound, like a dying breath, rusty hinges, screaming as the realm of the dead spills its nightmare into the world above. Hel, half her face radiant as moonlight, the other rotted to bone, lifts a skeletal hand, and her army answers. They come in waves, warriors long fallen, their hollow eyes glowing with ghostly fire, their rusted weapons clutched in spectral hands. This isn't just an army, it's every battle ever lost, every oath ever broken, rising now to claim the living. Odin sees them coming. His ravens, Hugin and Munin, circle above him, their cries sharp as shattered glass. They do not tire, Munin whispers into his ear. They do not fear, Hugin adds. The Allfather tightens his grip on Gungnir, his jaw set. He's faced countless foes, but this is different. The dead do not bleed, they do not retreat. Behind him, the Einherjar, the greatest warriors of Midgard, chosen by the Valkyries for this very day, raise their swords. Their voices roar like thunder, but Odin hears the tremor beneath it. Even the bravest soul hesitates when faced with an enemy that cannot die. The clash is deafening. Steel meets spectral flesh, and the air shudders with the screams of the slain, both old and new. An Einherjar cleaves a wraith in two, only for the halves to writhe and reform. Another drives his spear through a warrior's ghostly chest, but the dead man laughs, pulling himself along the shaft to sink teeth into his attacker's throat. The living fight with valor, but the dead fight with the weight of eternity. And then Odin understands. His one eye widens as the truth crashes over him. This isn't a battle of blades, it's a test of wills. The dead rise because they are remembered, because their stories still linger in the wind, in the songs, in the very soil of Midgard. To defeat them, he must do more than strike. He must release them. But how? The answer comes not from his wisdom, but from a voice he hasn't heard in centuries. Across the battlefield, a figure steps forward, a warrior he once knew, his face pale but his eyes clear. All-Father, the ghost murmurs, you gave us glory in life. Give us peace in death. The words hang in the air, heavier than Mjolnir. Odin's shoulders sag. He's spent ages gathering heroes for this war, but he never asked what came after. Now, as the dead press closer, their whispers merging into a chorus of longing, the god of wisdom realizes his mistake too late. Some wars aren't won by strength. They're ended by letting go. The ocean doesn't just part for Yermangander, it flees. Waves taller than Asgard's towers collapse inward as the serpent's gargantuan body heaves itself from the depths, water sluicing off scales the size of shields. The sea itself seems to recoil, leaving behind a scar of churned black sand where the beast drags itself ashore. His hiss is the sound of glaciers splitting, a shuddering exhale that rolls across the land like a storm front. Mountains crumble beneath his weight, not from malice, but simply because they cannot bear the reality of him. This isn't just a monster. This is the world's oldest wound, stitched into the ocean's floor for eons, now unraveling. Thor doesn't wait. Lightning forks down from a sky gone sickly green, and Mjolnir streaks toward the serpent like a comet. The impact cracks the earth, sending up plumes of molten rock, but Yermangander barely flinches. His great head swings toward the god, eyes reflecting not rage, but something worse, recognition. They've met before, in glimpses and prophecies, both knowing this moment was written into their bones. Thor lands on a shattered plateau, his red cloak whipping in the poisoned wind. You've had your fill of Midgard's seas, he snarls. Now taste the sky. The battle that follows isn't fought in blows, but in echoes. Every strike Thor lands sends shockwaves rippling through Yggdrasil's roots, farmlands in Valhalla flood. Dwarven forges in Nidavellir snuff out like candles. Mjolnir's lightning scorches the serpent's hide, yet for every wound, Yermangander's venom drips thicker, eating through stone and steel alike. The serpent coils, not to retreat, but to spring. His fangs glint as he lunges, and Thor barely rolls clear, the venom splashing where he stood, boiling the earth into glass. But the thunder god's mistake isn't in his strength, it's in his certainty. He's fought giants, trolls, even the undead, but Yermangander is different. This isn't a foe to overpower, it's a force to endure. And when the serpent's tail whips around, catching Thor mid-leap, the crack of ribs is louder than thunder. The god flies backward, skidding through rubble, his breath coming in ragged bursts. Above him, Yermangander rears, jaws gaping not to strike, but to speak. The voice that emerges is ancient, wet with the weight of forgotten depths. Little storm, It rasps. Did you think you could outrun the tide? Thor staggers up, blood on his teeth, Mjolnir's grip slick in his palm. He doesn't answer. There's nothing left to say. The prophecies whispered of 9 steps, and he's taken 8. The 9th, he knows, belongs to the serpent. Somewhere beyond the smoke and the screaming wind, Loki watches. His smile is gone. Even chaos has its hierarchies, and this is something older than tricks, older than gods. The serpent's victory isn't a twist of fate. It's the inevitable closing of a circle, as sure as the tide erasing footprints in the sand. Thor raises his hammer one last time. The sky answers, but so does the deep. The Bifrost shatters like glass under Surtr's flame, its rainbow shards dissolving into ash before they even touch the ground. The bridge between worlds, once gleaming and unbreakable, is now just another ember in the fire giant's wake. The sky isn't just red, it's bleeding, the clouds themselves burning away to reveal a void where stars used to hang. And yet, the gods do not falter. Odin's spear, Gungnir, gleams like a sliver of ice amid the inferno, its point steady as he steps forward. Beside him, Freya's golden tears sizzle against her cheeks, each drop hissing as it falls into the charred earth. Her magic isn't the gentle kind tonight. It's a wildfire of its own, twisting into shapes of wolves and falcons that tear into Surtr's advancing legions. Heimdall, his sword bright with the last light of the sun, doesn't blink as the flames lick at his boots. He's seen this moment in 1,000 visions, but now that it's here, there's no fear in his eyes. Only resolve. This isn't a battle for survival. It's a reckoning. Every clash of steel, every burst of magic, is a defiance shouted into the face of fate itself. The gods know how this ends. Odin's ravens have whispered it to him. Freya's satyr has shown it to her. Heimdall's horn has sung it across the realms. But knowing doesn't mean yielding. When Surtr's blade finally meets Odin's spear, the impact sends cracks racing through the earth, splitting the ground like a rotten fruit. The Allfather doesn't stumble. He pushes back, his one eye locked on the fire giant's smoldering gaze. You burn the world, Odin growls, but you cannot burn its stories. And then, Yggdrasil groans. The great tree, its branches holding the 9 realms, trembles as if caught in a gale. Far below, roots that have anchored the cosmos since the dawn of time begin to blacken and curl. The gods feel it in their bones, a shudder that isn't just sound. It's the unraveling of order, the snapping of threads that even the Norns can't reweave. Freya's magic flickers, Heimdall's sword dims, but Odin laughs. It's not the laugh of a king, or a warrior, or even a god. It's the laugh of a man who's stared into the dark for so long that the dark has become an old friend. Surtr hesitates. For the first time since the flames began, something flickers in his molten heart, not doubt, not fear, but the faintest shadow of respect. The gods were never meant to win this fight, but they were meant to fight it. And as the last of the Bifrost's light winks out, as Yggdrasil's trunk begins to splinter, that's enough. Odin's spear gleams like a dying star as he strides toward Fenrir, the ground cracking beneath his boots with each step. The wolf's growl is a storm-given voice, his yellow eyes reflecting not just hunger, but something deeper, an ancient understanding of the role he was born to play. The Allfather doesn't flinch. He's known this moment would come since the day he plucked out his own eye for wisdom. Now, as Fenrir's massive paws dig into the earth, sending tremors through the battlefield, Odin raises Gungnir not in defiance, but in acceptance. "You are not my enemy," he murmurs, though only the wind hears. "We are both threads in the same weave." The clash is brutal in its simplicity. No flash of magic, no grand strategy. Just god and beast, locked in a dance written by fate. Fenrir lunges, his jaws snapping shut where Odin stood a heartbeat before, but the god pivots, his spear carving a line of blue fire across the wolf's muzzle. The scent of burning fur fills the air. For a moment, it seems the Allfather might outmaneuver destiny itself. Then Fenrir twists, his tail whipping around like a battering ram, and Odin staggers. The wolf doesn't hesitate. His next lunge isn't reckless, it's calculated, a predator who's learned the rhythm of his prey. Gungnir strikes true, piercing Fenrir's shoulder, but the wolf doesn't howl. He surges forward, his teeth closing around Odin's torso with a crunch that echoes across the realms. The Allfather doesn't cry out. His hands tighten on his spear, even as his vision blurs, driving it deeper into Fenrir's flesh. They fall together, god and monster, their blood mingling in the dirt. Somewhere beyond the pain, Odin hears the gasps of the Aesir, the ragged cries of his sons. But his gaze stays locked on Fenrir's. There's no hatred there, only the grim acknowledgement of two actors playing their parts to the end. As the light dims in Odin's eye, the wolf's grip doesn't falter. This isn't vengeance, it's inevitability, and then silence. The spear slips from Odin's fingers. The ruler of Asgard slumps, his cloak spreading like wings against the scorched earth. The gods are frozen, their weapons half raised, as if the world itself has stopped breathing. But Fenrir doesn't gloat. He releases Odin's body and throws back his head, his howl a dirge for the fallen. The sound shakes the stars loose from the sky. High above, Hugin and Munin circle once, twice, their wings brushing the clouds. Then, with a final cry, they dive, not toward the battlefield, but into the gathering dark, carrying the Allfather's last thoughts into the void. The ravens don't look back. They know what the others are only beginning to understand. This isn't the end of the story. It's the turning of a page. On the horizon, the sun gutters like a candle in the wind. The shadows grow longer, and the wolf, his muzzle stained with divine blood, turns his gaze toward the last of the gods. The final hour isn't coming. It's here. Thor's breath comes in ragged, burning gasps as he staggers forward, Mjolnir's weight dragging at his arm like an anchor. The serpent's venom eats through his armor, searing his skin with every step, but the thunder god doesn't stop. Can't stop, not now, not when the sky itself is crumbling. Yermangander coils before him, his massive body a living mountain of scales and scars, each one etched with the memory of their endless feud. The serpent's eyes gleam, not with hatred, but with something almost like relief. This was always how it had to end. Mjolnir arcs through the air, lightning splitting the gloom as it connects with the serpent's skull. The impact sends shockwaves rippling through what's left of Midgard, toppling the last standing ruins of Asgard's golden halls. Yermangander rears back, hissing, but Thor doesn't let up. He swings again and again, each strike fueled by grief for his father, for his home, for the worlds burning around him. The hammer's runes glow white hot, searing the serpent's flesh, but Thor's strength is waning. The venom is in his blood now, a fire spreading through his veins, turning his vision red at the edges. Then, the serpent strikes. Yermangandr's fangs sink deep, piercing Thor's shoulder, and the god roars, not in pain, but in defiance. He doesn't pull away. Instead, he grips the serpent's jaws, his muscles straining as he forces them wider. "You take me," Thor snarls, blood flecking his lips, "but I take you with me." With a final, thunderous cry, he brings Mjolnir down onto the serpent's skull with all the fury of the storm itself. The crack that follows isn't just sound, it's the fabric of the world splitting. Yermangandr's colossal body convulses, his tail lashing out in one last, earth-shattering spasm before he collapses, his massive weight crushing the ruins beneath him. Thor stumbles back, his legs buckling, his fingers slackening around Mjolnir's handle. The hammer slips from his grasp, landing with a thud in the dust. For a moment, there's silence, no wind, no distant screams, just the quiet settling of ash and the slow, labored rise and fall of Thor's chest. He looks up at the bleeding sky, at the stars winking out one by one, and something like peace crosses his face. He'd always known it would end this way, not in victory, but in balance. The serpent's venom curls through him, a darkness creeping in at the edges, but he doesn't fight it. He closes his eyes. Somewhere beyond the ruin, a single raven circles, its wings brushing the smoke-choked air. It doesn't cry. It doesn't land. It simply watches as the last son of Odin breathes his last, and then it too vanishes into the gathering dark. The storm is over. The thunder has faded, and in the wreckage of the 9 realms, 2 legends lie still. Their battle ended, their saga written in blood and bone. But even as the embers cool, the wind carries something else, a whisper, faint but insistent. Because in Norse myth, endings are never final, they're seeds. And from this silence, something new will rise. The air itself seems to recoil as Loki and Heimdall circle each other, the ground beneath them a cracked mirror of the dying sky. Flames from Surtr's rampage lick at their heels, but neither god notices. Their battle isn't about survival anymore. It's about something far older, far deeper, carved into their bones since the first lie was whispered and the first horn was blown. Heimdall's sword gleams, not with its usual golden light, but with a dull, exhausted sheen, as if even the metal knows this is the end. Loki's daggers, though, still glitter like ice, his grin sharp enough to cut. "All these centuries," he murmurs, "and you still don't see the joke." Heimdall doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The guardian of the Bifrost has spent lifetimes watching, waiting, knowing this moment would come. When he lunges, it's not with the flashy bravado of a warrior, but with the quiet precision of a man who's already seen every move his enemy will make. His blade finds Loki's ribs, parting flesh with a whisper, but the trickster doesn't cry out. He laughs, a sound like breaking glass, and drives his own dagger into Heimdall's side. They stagger, locked together, blood pooling at their feet, black as the ashes swirling around them. For a heartbeat, the world holds its breath. Even the flames seem to pause. Then Loki's knees buckle. Heimdall follows him down, their strength ebbing like the tide. The Watcher's golden eyes dim, but his grip on Loki's shoulder doesn't loosen. "You could have been so much more," Heimdall rasps. Loki's smile falters, just for a moment. Then it returns, thinner now, edged with something almost like regret. No, he whispers, I couldn't. His breath hitches, his body sagging against Heimdall's as the last of his strength bleeds away. The trickster's final act isn't a grand deception or a clever escape. It's silence, and as the two gods slump into the dust, their blood mingling with the ruin of the worlds they helped shape, the fire giant's shadow falls over them. Surtr doesn't pause. He doesn't even glance down. The flames swallow Loki and Heimdall whole, leaving no trace but embers. No monument, no saga, just the faintest echo of a laugh on the wind. Somewhere, far beyond the smoke and the screaming sky, a raven croaks. It's not a lament. It's not a warning. It's just a sound, drifting through the hollow where the world tree once stood. Because even chaos, in the end, must bow to silence. The fire giant's blade falls one final time, and the world splits open like an overripe fruit. Surtr's sword doesn't just cut, it unravels, severing the threads that hold the cosmos together. The earth shudders, great fissures tearing across continents, swallowing forests, mountains, entire cities whole. The oceans, once teeming with life, now boil and churn, their waters rising in monstrous waves to claim the land. Even the sky fractures, the stars winking out one by one, as if plucked by unseen fingers. The sun, that steadfast beacon, darkens to a smoldering ember, its light choked by the ash of 1,000 burning realms. This isn't destruction. It's uncreation. For a moment, there's no sound but the crackling of flames and the groan of the earth giving way. No screams. No battle cries. Just the eerie silence of a world holding its breath before the plunge. The air itself feels heavy, thick with the weight of endings. Yggdrasil, the great world tree, trembles, its roots snapping, its branches blackening as the fire climbs higher. The tree that once connected all things now burns like a funeral pyre, its ashes scattering across the void. And then, the sea rises, not in waves, but in a single, hungering tide, swallowing the shattered remains of Midgard, of Jotunheim, of every realm that once clung to Yggdrasil's branches. The water doesn't rush. It consumes slow and inevitable, as if the ocean itself has been waiting for this moment since the dawn of time. The fire meets the flood, steam hissing like a dying sigh, and for the first time in eternity, there is no heat, no cold, only absence. Yet even in this silence, there's a whisper, not of wind, not of voices, but of something deeper. The Norse didn't believe in true endings, only in cycles. And as the last ember of Surtr's fire gutters out, as the last drop of the flood sinks into the abyss, the darkness isn't empty. It's waiting, because from the void, all things must begin again. From the ashes, a figure stirs, not a god, not a giant, but something, someone else. The air is thick with the taste of salt and cinders, the ground beneath them cracked and lifeless, yet their breath comes steady. Unshaken, around them, the ruins of the old world sag like the bones of a long-dead beast, the last embers of Surtr's fire, flickering in the hollows where great cities once stood. The silence is absolute, or so it seems until the wind shifts, carrying with it a voice so faint it might be memory, the seeress. Her words are worn thin by time, but their meaning is clear, from the dark, the green. And then, a sound, soft, almost lost beneath the sigh of the waves. A sprout, tiny and defiant, pushes through the blackened earth, then another, and another. The survivor kneels, fingers brushing the tender shoots, and for the first time since the sky fell, something like wonder crosses their face. This isn't just regrowth. It's resurrection. The land remembers what was lost, and it refuses to let the story end here. High above, where Yggdrasil's branches once scraped the stars, two figures materialize from the mist, neither young nor old, neither familiar nor strange. Their names are forgotten, but their purpose hums in the air between them like a plucked string. One reaches down, cupping a handful of the ashen soil. The other lifts their face to the horizon, where the sea and sky bleed together in a haze of gold and gray. No words pass between them, none are needed. The work is already begun. Somewhere, deep in what's left of the forests, a stag lifts its head. Its antlers are bare, its flanks scarred, but its eyes are bright. It steps forward, hooves leaving prints in the soft earth and the trees. What few remain seem to lean toward it, whispering secrets only the wild can hear. The cycle isn't broken. It never was. The old gods may be dust, but their stories, those are written in the roots, in the rivers, in the slow, sure turn of the seasons. And so, as the first true dawn in an age breaks over the world's ragged edge, the survivor stands. They don't look back. There's nothing left to see. Instead, they walk toward the light, the seeress's voice curling around them like smoke. The end was always the beginning. The rest is yours to name. The first thing Lif notices is the smell. Not ash, not salt, but earth. Rich and damp, the scent clings to the air like a promise. The ground beneath their bare feet is soft, yielding, streaked with patches of green, so bright, they hurt the eyes after so long in the dark. Lifthrasir kneels, brushing fingers over a cluster of shoots, their leaves still curled tight as fists. They're warm, they murmur, as if the plants hum with life just beneath the surface. And perhaps they do. The world feels different now, not broken, not empty, but waiting. The pair walk in silence, their footsteps leaving faint impressions in the damp soil. Around them, the land unfolds like a scroll newly written, rivers carving fresh paths through the valleys, trees stretching skeletal branches toward a sky scrubbed clean of smoke. There are no ruins here, no bones of the old world. It's as if the flood and the fire scoured the slate entirely, leaving only this, a blank page. Lif pauses beside a pool of rainwater, their reflection wavering in the breeze. The face that stares back is unfamiliar, not because it's changed, but because they've never truly seen it before. Not like this, without the weight of stories, of names, of destinies etched into their skin. A bird calls a single, questioning note. Lifthrasir turns, squinting at the tree line, where a sparrow perches on a naked branch. Its feathers are ruffled, its beak chipped, but its eyes are sharp. It cocks its head, watching them with the quiet intensity of a creature, deciding whether to trust. Then, with a flutter, it's gone. The moment feels like a key turning in a lock. They don't speak of the past. How could they? The old tongues are dust on the wind. The sagas of gods and monsters reduced to half-remembered dreams that slip away upon waking. But sometimes, when the light slants just so through the leaves, Lifthrasir catches Lif, staring at the horizon, their expression caught between wonder and grief. As if some part of them knows, deep down, that they stand on the shoulders of giants, whose names they'll never learn. Night falls gently here. The stars return one by one, timid at first, then bold, their patterns rearranged as if the sky too has been reborn. Lifthrasir builds a fire, the first in this new age, and the flames dance in Lif's eyes. They don't need words to understand what this means. The old world ended in fire. This one begins with it. And so, beneath a sky unpainted by prophecies, the last of humanity sits together in the glow. They don't know they're the heirs of Ragnarök. They don't know they're the answer to the seeress's riddle. All they know is the quiet crackle of the fire, the rustle of leaves in the dark, and the unshakable truth that hums in their blood. The story isn't over. It's just theirs to tell now. The raven's call lingers in the air, a thread of sound unraveling across the empty sky. Its wings cast no shadow on this new earth, only the faintest ripple in the light, like a stone dropped into still water. Lif and Lifthrasir pause, their hands stilling over the fresh-turned soil. That cry isn't just a bird's voice. It's a murmur from the other side of time, a whisper of stories too old to name, but too deep to fade. The wind shifts, and for a heartbeat, it carries something more. The scent of pine and mead, the metallic tang of a battlefield long gone, the salt of a sea that no longer exists. Then it's gone, leaving only the rustle of young leaves in its wake. Lifthrasir exhales, their breath clouding in the dawn chill. Did you hear? They begin, but Lif shakes their head. Not in denial, in understanding. Some questions have no answers, just echoes. The past isn't dead here. It's woven into the roots, the stones, the very air they breathe. When they drink from the new rivers, they taste memories that aren't theirs. When they sleep, their dreams are crowded with figures whose faces they can't quite see. A one-eyed king, a thunder wielder, a fire-haired trickster, all blurred at the edges like ink in rain. Yet the land doesn't mourn. The saplings stretch taller each morning, their branches reaching for a sun that no longer bears the weight of prophecies. The rivers carve their own paths, indifferent to where the old ones once flowed. Even the stars have rearranged themselves, their new constellations indifferent to the sagas they once inspired. This world isn't built on ruins, it's built on silence. And then the raven calls again. Closer this time, Lif looks up, expecting to see the bird perched on a nearby branch, but the trees are empty. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, a voice without a body. Lifthrasir's fingers brush against a fallen log, their touch dislodging a patch of moss. Beneath it, the wood isn't rotten, it's carved. Faded runes spiral across the surface, their meanings lost but their presence undeniable. Proof that someone, something, remembers. The wind rises once more, warm now, carrying the scent of blossoms from a grove they haven't found yet. The raven doesn't call again. It doesn't need to. The message is clear. The old world may be a dream, but dreams have power, and in this new age, even echoes can take root. The stone is cold under Lif's fingertips, its surface rough with runes that bite into the skin like teeth. The carvings aren't fresh, the edges are softened by wind and rain, the grooves stained with lichen, but their power hums through the rock like a heartbeat. Lifthrasir traces the symbols with a trembling hand, their breath fogging in the dawn air. The seeress, they whisper, as if the name alone might summon her ghost from the earth. The words etched here aren't just a warning, they are a map, a guide, a confession. The cycle will repeat. Lif's throat tightens, they've seen the signs, the way the saplings bend toward the east, as if pulled by an invisible tide, the way the river's current shifts direction when no one's watching, the way the raven's cry sometimes sounds like a voice they almost recognize. The world isn't just rebuilding itself, it's remembering, and then there are the dreams. Lifthrasir hasn't spoken of them, but Lif knows. They've seen the way their companion jolts awake in the dead of night, eyes wide and unseeing, fingers clawing at the soil as if digging for something lost. Last night, Lifthrasir gasped a name into the dark Odin, and the wind had answered with a sigh that wasn't wind at all. The stone's final line is the deepest cut, the runes gouged with such force that the rocks splintered around them. The gods may rise again, or they may remain only in legend. A shiver runs through Lif. They've walked this land for seasons, thinking themselves alone, the first and last of everything. But the truth is written here, plain as daylight. They aren't pioneers, they're inheritors. The ashes of the old world cling to their boots, and the seeds of the new sprout between their toes. Somewhere beyond the tree line, a branch snaps. Lifthrasir stiffens, their hand flying to the knife at their belt. But it's just the stag, its antlers tangled with ivy, watching them with eyes that hold too much knowing. The beast doesn't flee. It dips its head, as if in acknowledgement, then turns and vanishes into the undergrowth. The wind stirs, carrying the scent of damp soil, and something else, something old. Lif exhales, their breath mingling with the mist that curls around the stone. The seeress's words hang between them, heavier than the silence. The world endures. It must, but the question isn't whether the gods will return. It's whether Lif and Lifthrasir will recognize them when they do. The wind carries the last syllable of the seeress's song like a leaf, spinning into the void, soft, final, yet somehow weightless. The words linger in the air longer than they should, the edges of each rune shimmering like heat haze before dissolving into the silence. The threads of fate, once taut with the weight of prophecy, now lie slack in the loom, their patterns reset. But threads, no matter how frayed, never truly break. They simply wait to be woven again, and the world waits with them. Beneath the roots of a sapling, no taller than a child's shoulder, the soil shifts. Not with the slow creep of worms or the patient push of growing things, but with purpose. Something buried here remembers, not a god, not a beast, but a shape without a name, a shadow that contracts and expands like a lung drawing breath. It doesn't rise, not yet. It listens to the scuff of Lif's footsteps as they kneel to inspect the sapling's leaves, to Lifthrasir's absent humming, a tune half recalled from a dream, to the distant cry of the raven, no longer a bird, but an echo wearing feathers. The sapling shivers, though there's no breeze. Its roots twine deeper, brushing against something cold and smooth. A fragment of Gungnir's shaft, perhaps, or a scale from Yermangandr's belly. The shadow pulses in recognition. It knows what the seeress knew, that endings are illusions, that every silence is a pause between notes, that the tapestry, though rewoven, will always bear the ghost of its first pattern. High above, the new stars flicker, their constellations forming shapes no sage has ever named. But if you squint just so, one cluster might resemble a one-eyed face. Another, a hammer, another still, a serpent's coil. Or perhaps it's only the mind, desperate for familiar shapes, imposing order on the chaos of rebirth. The shadow doesn't care. It has time. The sapling will grow. The runestone will weather. Lif and Lifthrasir will fade into legend, then myth, then whispers. And when the loom begins its next weaving, the shadow will be ready, not to rule, not to destroy, but to remind, because some stories aren't meant to be told. They are meant to repeat. The fire burns low, its embers pulsing like distant stars in the gathering dark. Around it, the air hums with the weight of something more than silence, a presence woven from memory and ash. The stories of the gods don't truly end here. They ripple outward, carried on the breath of those who kneel by hearths and under open skies, passing the tales from tongue to ear, from hand to carved stone. The sagas of Odin's wisdom, Thor's thunder, Loki's cunning, they've slipped their anchors in time, but they haven't vanished. They've simply become something else. Something quieter, something waiting. Look closer at the world rising from the ashes, the rivers that now flow where none ran before. Their currents murmur in a language older than words, shaping valleys in patterns that mirror the veins of Yggdrasil's fallen leaves. The trees that stretch their newborn branches toward the sun, their roots twine around fragments of what once was a splinter of Mjolnir's handle, a shard of Heimdall's horn, absorbing their echoes like water. Even the wind, when it sighs through the grass, carries the faintest refrain of Jjallar Horn's last call. This isn't just survival, it's transformation. The Norse didn't fear Ragnarök because it meant oblivion. They revered it because it meant renewal. The gods may have fallen, but their essence lingers, not as rulers, not as warriors, but as the quiet pulse beneath the soil, the spark in the first flame of a new age. The great tapestry was never meant to hang unchanged. It was meant to unravel, thread by thread, so the hands of the next era could weave it anew, and so the legends settle, not as endings, but as seeds. When Lifthrasir hums that half-remembered tune by the fire, or when Lif traces the runes on a sun-warmed stone, they're not just recalling the past, they're tending it. The stories are no longer bound to gods or monsters. They belong to the wind now, to the water, to the ones who will someday tilt their heads and listen, really listen, to the whisper in the storm or the shadow in the roots. The last ember gutters out. The night stretches on, vast and star-scattered. Somewhere, a raven tucks its beak beneath its wing. The world turns, and deep in the bones of the earth, the loom begins to stir.
you.